do it, just, yeah.
Go ahead, you had a question?
Yeah, for FHA, is it lower interest rates?
That's a really good question. So FHA, are you looking at a lower interest rate, and then are you looking to pay a lower PMI or MIP? So he's asking for FHA, is it a lower interest rate?
Typically, the rate's a little bit lower. It's not much lower, but here's the whole thing though, right? When you have a sub-perfect credit score, right? Like anything above a 740 credit score is considered A credit. Once you're below a 740, there's different tiers, right? On conventional loans, if your credit score is below a 740, there's bigger pricing hit, so you're gonna get a much worse rate going conventional with that credit score. While FHA doesn't have a pricing hit for having a lower credit score.
So FHA gives you more flexibility with your credit score that doesn't hit you with a higher interest rate penalty.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like hypothetically, let's say your credit score is like a 650, right? You compare a 650 credit score to a 740, and you were going conventional, your rate's probably gonna be at least a half a point, maybe a full point higher. While if you're going FHA, there's not a hit there. You get the same rate whether you're a 740 or 650 going FHA.
That's a good question. Good, that's a good question. Okay, so we're on the next slide. So Mike, okay, so I just purchased my multifamily home. Let's use me as an example. 2022, I closed the year purchasing a 2-family home in Jersey City going FHA. So what happens next? How do I get my next property? Walk me through that.
I mean, what I would do, so I could get another FHA loan, is I would refinance out of the house I already have from FHA into conventional.
How long before I refinance out of my current house from an FHA to conventional?
You could refi in 6 months.
That's awesome.
You gotta wait 6 months and you can refi. So you buy going FHA, sit in it for 3 months or 6 months, and then you could look into refinancing out of FHA to conventional. And the benefit of that is now you're freeing up your ability to go get another FHA loan.
So I can turn my first FHA multifamily home 6 months later, refinance into conventional, and then qualify 6 months later after my first purchase in another FHA loan.
As long as you lived in the first house for 12 months, you can now buy the next house.
So I would have to live in the first house for 12 months. Yes, go ahead,
In
ask.
regards to 6 months later, I don't need a certain amount of equity built up to refinance, or?
So what are the equity requirements so I can refinance that first FHA multifamily house?
So you would have to be at 85% loan to value, so basically 15% equity. If it's a 3-family.
If it's a 3-family?
Right.
Any difference with a 2-family?
Well, same thing.
Same
Two-
thing.
two or three is 15%.
Okay,
So you do need some built up equity.
So you just put down more money, you go in with the plan saying, I'm gonna put down more than what my mortgage is worth. So
Right.
that's that.
Yeah, you could always pay the loan down quicker, pay more towards your mortgage payment every month, or if you got to a point where, hey, maybe you only need another 15, 20 grand to get to that point, the 15%, you could always pay a lump sum when you do the refi. to get out of
Okay.
it.
What about
Good
if,
question.
I'm sorry, what about if you have a multifamily VA loan, but then you want to buy a second property, and you have an FHA loan?
You can, yeah.
It's like you never had an FHA loan, right?
Yeah. So you just can't, like, I say this like vaguely, you can't have 2 FHA loans at a time, right? Technically you can, like let's say if I co-signed for like a family member, right? And they bought an FHA property, like I'm still eligible to go buy an FHA loan myself, right? And they don't need to refi out of it. So like in your case, like you go FHA or you go VA for the first property, as long as you're definitely gonna move into the second property, you can 100% go FHA on the second property.
It's gotta make like sense, like, so if you bought a multifamily, the first one was a 2 or 3 family, and then the second home was a single family, like, hey, I have the multifamily, it's gonna be my investment, now I'm moving into a single family home, that's kind of a make sense scenario of where it would be acceptable to have 2 FHA loans at the same time. So the idea is really buy the multifamily first and the single family second.
That's
That's
why
the-
once
that's
you
the
start
best-
with the 3 or 4
Yeah.
unit first and then gear down. Like, let's say I bought like $1 million single family home, right, in a nice area, and then I go to buy.
finance a 3-family in
and
Jersey
I
City.
go, and I go buy a 3 or 4 unit in like an area that's,
Up and coming.
up and coming, but like,
Yeah.
and it's hard to make the underwriter to believe that I'm gonna move from my $1 million home into a 4th family that I'm buying for $350,000,
Right.
So like, it does have to make sense in that aspect, you know what I mean? But Yeah.
Got it, so the requirements are purchase the first property, multifamily, going FHA, live in it for 12 months, refinance later, turn that FHA into conventional, and now you qualify for another FHA going multifamily as well,
Mhm.
right? So now it's year 2, we're on property 2, show me how you get to property 3.
I mean, property 3,
In most cases,
You
you're
can-
looking
you
at
can
second
go
home
to
in this
the next one.
situation.
in,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
in property 3, we wanna gear it towards now, hey, you already own 2 multifamily properties, and now you're gonna buy a single family home, which is more gonna be like your forever home, right? And at that point, because it's a single family home, you go conventional, and you can put 5% down.
On the third property,
That's your
single family
third property,
home,
single family home.
because now we're claiming we're moving out of the second property and into our single family home, primary residence. Make sense? Okay, cool. Any questions so far? Yeah, go ahead.
So let's say I wanted to buy the third one, can I use the rent rolls from the 2 family?
Great question.
Oh, yeah.
Great question.
Definitely, definitely. What you wanna do though is on your tax returns, right? Now that you own a property, you're gonna claim a Schedule E.
Schedule E,
You're gonna have a
right?
Schedule E on your tax returns. So you wanna be careful, cause like, it's a catch-22, right? Because you don't wanna, you're gonna show all the income, but you wanna show expenses, so you're not paying a ton of taxes, right? To the IRS. So like your CPA you use is probably gonna try to expense as much stuff as possible. You just gotta make sure you're not expensing too much stuff, because then it's gonna negate the income that you're getting.
What's too much?
It really depends.
Well-
We have to look at your tax
Well,
returns, yeah.
here's what I recommend you do before you do your taxes. Have,
Talk to us. Yeah.
before your account files your taxes with the IRS, get a draft, send a draft to us, we'll take a look at it. And like, look, legally, I can't tell you how much to claim, right? But I can tell you, hey, based off of the draft you sent me, it don't look, you know, it's not.
Got it. Mike, I'm gonna reverse, that was a really good question, by the way. I'm gonna reverse this. Some of us that are.
hear that.
And by the way, as far as the income goes, when you're renting out your home that you're now moving into another home, you can use proposed rental income as long as you have a lease.
Right.
So that's not claimed income on a tax return. So if you're moving into a single family from a multifamily, and you're gonna now rent your unit that you were living in, you can show a lease, with a security deposit for that, what that rent's going to be, and as long as it's not above what's considered market rent, like an average rate for the area, you can then use that rent for a monthly income. So that's not gonna be taxed to income, so that, that's kind of another little loophole, that you're gonna use market rent, for the area, so that doesn't have to be income that's, filed on your tax returns, and you're gonna be
That's
able to
true.
use that as income on a
Yeah.
property, yeah.
I'm gonna reverse it a little bit here. So some of us that are sitting in the audience may be thinking, well, I'm not going to buy a multifamily home. It's just not my thing. I want the space. I'm starting a family. I just got married. So walk me through a game plan. Can I still own 3 homes in 3 years if my first home purchase is a single family starter home?
Absolutely.
Walk me through that.
Well, what's the second and third one gonna
You tell me, second and third home. So I'm now in a position where I qualify, me and my partner, we're starting a family, and I'm looking for, not a luxurious home, but my $400,000 first starter home. Can I possibly get my second property the second year?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, if you buy a single family home, you could go FHA if you want, 3.5% down, or you could go conventional, and you could go 3 or 5%.
So you're 5% down going
If you're a
conventional.
first time home buyer, conventional, you go 3% down.
Don't you still have paperwork costs and stuff like that, closing costs and that?
You're paying closing costs, right?
Yeah.
So like typically, I'm gonna assume everybody's gonna buy the property in New Jersey, right? On average in New Jersey, you're looking between $10,000 to $15,000 in total closing costs, which includes like title fees, attorney fees.
You know, like 3% usually or something like that?
Yeah, roughly. So like 10 to 15, give or take, you know what I mean? You could always get what's called a seller's concession, where, let's say you only have enough money to cover your down payment and nothing else, right? The seller can pay for your closing costs for you. That's called a seller concession or seller credit, which is cool. So like, a lot of times, like what you do, so it's not money coming out of their pocket. They're not like paying the closing costs for you.
Right.
It's just money that they don't net when they sell the house. So let's use like round numbers. Let's say you're under contract for $500,000,
Yeah, it's 500.
and let's say you're getting a $15,000 seller concession. now the seller is really only netting 485 because you had a 15K concession. So it's very common. It's easy to get that, like when it's less of a competitive, like, seller's market, right? When there's not too many offers on the property, a lot of times you can negotiate and get it close to close up.
Are you seeing seller's concession now more often in this
yeah,
market?
So it is picking
Yeah.
up a little bit again, but I have
Yep.
seen it when it was a little slow. And typically as a realtor, what I do is I put a little bit of a higher offer, and if I know if it's gonna appraise at that point, and then I can get that seller's concession for my buyers. I've done it for a lot of my clients.
Got it, so it's really in the realtor's negotiating power.
Correct.
To represent you and get that seller's concession. It's not
Correct.
the loan officer. You can say, hey, how does it work? We'll explain it to you, but it's really with your realtor, your
Yep.
team of realtors that negotiates that seller's concession.
I call up the
Great,
listing
great
agent.
question.
Yeah, I call up the listing
Great
agent and
question.
just tell them, hey, you know, how much is your seller
Got it.
looking to get? You know what I mean? Like, I literally say that. And they're like, they look and they're, cause they know.
Yeah.
You know, they go on these, you know, that's their client. So they, you know, they have these conversations. I tell them, okay, so if I put an offer of this, can we get this? You know, I'm gonna just get this much, and then usually that makes the deal happen.
Got it. Mike,
And
going,
you need to have a realtor that knows what they're doing
Yeah.
and experience with that if you wanna get a seller concession. Because some agents don't even know what it is, or some agents
Or
don't
how to do it,
but
or
don't
how
know
to
how to,
negotiate.
don't know how to negotiate the right way.
Yeah.
So like, look, it's definitely good to try to get, even if you don't need it,
try and go for it.
try to go
Yeah.
for it because.
What's the cap amount going FHA seller's concession and conventional seller's concession and then VA seller's concession?
So FHA, 6% of your purchase price. Whatever your purchase
Yeah.
price is, it's 6%. VA, it's 4% of the purchase price, and then conventional is tiered. Anything below 10% down payment is 3. Anything, if you're going 10% down, between 10% and 25% down for down payment, it's 6. And then if you're going 25% down, it's 9. Which, if you're
So
going
it's more
25%
tiered
down,
for
you're
what?
not gonna ask for a seller concession.
Got it.
You're not gonna need it.
Got it.
So it's tiered conventional.
It's tiered, but you can definitely negotiate a seller's concession. Going back to the single family house, is it possible as my first home to purchase single family house with the low down payment of 3% or 5%, or do I have to put down the full 20%?
No, absolutely not. You're a first time home buyer, you go conventional, you go 3% down.
Do I need to qualify anything specific, my credit score, my income, to go 3% going conventional?
Credit score, conventional, went out to 620. Debt to income ratio, which you asked that about before, is 50. So it's a little bit tighter, going conventional. And then what was the last thing? Down payment?
Well, do I have to put down the 15 or 20% that most people think you have to do when you go conventional?
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to,
And most people don't.
right? Exactly.
I don't, even if you have the money to go 20% down.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Why is it a smart idea to go lower on your down payment and not high?
I just think you can invest the money
That's
somewhere
right.
else, you know? Like if you, let's say you're buying a $500,000 house, if you put, I don't know, 20% down instead of 5%, maybe you're saving $300 a month off your payment. And I'm using big numbers right there. It's not like you're gonna cut your payment by $1,000 a month, it's very minimal.
Got it, got it. I'll ask you something else. So we went over the 3-2-1 method, multifamily 3, then multifamily 2, then multifamily 1. But in this scenario, let's say I was already a homeowner, I owned a single family home or condo, and walk me through the scenario where you helped me. I was looking to purchase my first short-term rental, and I thought that I had to go the full 20% down payment with a really high interest rate. And you walked me through financing that deal
Yeah.
at a really low down payment, at a really good interest rate.
So you bought a
Yeah.
property in Orlando, right?
Right, so I came to you and I said, Ross buying all these Airbnb properties, how do I get one? And what do I need to do? Yeah, how do I get it? That's the same thing I said. And I said, Mike, I don't have the 20% down. Obviously, the rates for the DSCR loans, they were pretty high compared to where they were in 2020. You said, you can do it. And I said, how? You're like, you can do a second home loan. I'm like, I've never heard that term. What the hell is that? So walk us through that.
So second home loan or a vacation home, right?
Vacation home,
It's
right.
gotta be a vacation home area. So like for us around this area, right? If you're buying down in Florida, the Carolinas, you call it second home. If you're buying in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, you call it a second home. You do a
What
lot
about
of people
Jersey
do that.
Shore?
You buy a house down
Second
down
home.
Jersey Shore,
Yep.
called second home. The minimum down payment's 10% down for that. So a lot of people think, hey, I gotta go 20 or
20%,
25% down
yeah.
to buy the property. You don't have to, you can go 10% down.
There are requirements, so you do need to occupy the property, I believe, 180 days out of the calendar year. And the rest of the days, you can do a short-term rental on it. Now, I know a lot of people, because people ask me this, like, do they check? Who checks? What would you reply to that? I have my own response, but
Just don't tell them.
just,
I mean, look, you're gonna sign a document saying
Right.
that you're using it as a second home vacation home, right?
right,
So, I would recommend doing it the right way, or at least doing it the right way for the first year, right? And then after the first year, you can do whatever you want.
With that, how many people can be on that home? Let's say your second home was a family house. So me, and my brother, you, and she's our sister, we go in that second.
If you do a family, you'll definitely be good.
yep.
As long as it's family members.
How many co-borrowers?
If there's multiple non-family members, it could get a little sticky, and it might be hard to convince the underwriter that you're actually gonna use it as a vacation home, not an investment property.
Are there limit on the number of co-borrowers that I can add to my
I
application?
mean, it's making my life miserable, the more people you put on, but not, I'm just
No.
kidding. Well, you have as many
Yeah,
people,
you have
as many people as you want.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Does it
like-
make our job harder? Yeah, maybe.
I mean, look, the more people you put on the loan, you need to
Right.
run their credit.
Run their credit,
you
look
gotta
their
get
jobs,
you
check
gotta
their
get
DTI.
income documents,
Right.
you know, so.
But many people assume that there's a cap to the number of applicants, co-borrowers that you can add on your
I
application.
think the most I ever had on a loan was
Four?
six.
Oh, 6, okay.
Hey, look, we got it done, you know.
They all bought a house.
Yeah, they all bought a house together. It was fine.
Got it, okay. Any questions on that, on the short-term rental financing, second home, vacation home, multifamily homes, requirements? Okay, cool. Before we jump into down payment, I wanna let you flow back again to the process and then we'll jump back in. Is that cool? Okay,
Yeah,
go
fine.
ahead.
That's fine, alright.